The Ward Scott Files is produced by Ward Scott Files, LLC.
Come on, everybody. Come on, everybody.
This is a Ward Scott Files advisory. The Ward Scott Files radio show may contain material not suited for people who are easily offended. Trust us on this. This show contains adult information and opinions. Please protect small children, sensitive pets, fragile houseplants, and liberal relatives. Thank you.
All right, good morning, good morning. Here we are. If you're seeing a single shot of me filling your screen here, be glad I can still do that. My head has not gotten so big that it doesn't fill the screen, right? It does fill it. I don't know how to say that, Jay. Got my good buddy Jay back there behind the wall taking care of us in our production needs. And got a guest we're not going to show you just yet, but it is. I'll give you a clue. Our Dance Alive National Ballet Thursday, which we love to do and have good friends there with this organization. And one of my very best friends, longstanding friend, is here off screen right now because we're going to give you some early breaking news here that perhaps you're aware of, perhaps you're not aware of, and that is that Julian Assange, the one who is suspected of aiding Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election by releasing material stolen from the computers of the Clinton campaign, allegedly, and the Democratic Party. In July, the Justice Department charged 12 Russian intelligence officers with hacking those computers, and the indictment extends over into WikiLeaks. And just a moment ago, outside Assange was arrested by British court for jumping bail, and the Metropolitan Police went in and literally arrested him at the embassy on a warrant issued by the Westminster Magistrates Court in 2012 for failing to surrender then to the court. Now, this has some far-reaching implications here, and perhaps we'll see what happens. The Department of Justice here will try to bring him here to talk about whatever role he might have had in the leaks and the Russian this and that, one thing and another. And that's not something we're prepared to talk about yet because we don't know how all that will be handled. But it has to do with the United States Department of Justice has charged him in relation to the publication of classified documents. And those were prosecutors accidentally made those public in November. So there was some video footage. We don't have it, but there you see him. I think Jay's got it there. Between Assange and Ecuador, it's been a rocky one. They've been offering him a refuge for quite some time, but he's been arrested with an agreement for the UK, and he's been expelled from the embassy. So I don't know where this is going, but we wanted to let you know it's happened. It's of course, politically charged situation. He's a data programmer, computer fellow, as you know. He's been in the Ecuadorian embassy in London since he's lived there, not with his family, his children. He's lived there since 2012, and Ecuador withdrew its asylum it just had granted him. And there's been a lot of pressure to do that. He is the WikiLeaks founder that you've heard so much about and has released reams of secret documents. This is according to some of the coverage that's right now coming out of the New York Times. So wanted to put that in your ear. We'll cover that more as we go along, as it develops. We know we live in a fascinating world, and that is that we all have this internet now, and everybody's watching everybody, and there's investigators of the investigators of the investigators, and then, you know, who's telling the truth and who at any moment's fake news, this, that, wing, another. But, you know, data is where it's all at now in our world is data. That data doesn't seem to ever go away unless, of course, you're Hillary the liar and you take a ball-peen hammer and you beat your hard drive into submission and scrub it with bleach and then flush it down the toilet, I guess. I don't know. And she was so paranoid about data existing, and obviously there's something hanky-panky going on there. So this all plays into our modern mystery that we have now in the 21st century, and it has come to gel around the election. So we wanted to give you an update on that. So he has been arrested. And speaking of arrests, of course, we have been covering for some time now rappers. And it seems that, well, we know the rapper language is extremely violent. It's and it refers to women as, you know, and I'll just quote their words as bitches and hoes and all that sort of business, and glorifies breaking the law. And so now we've got a case that happened with a local rapper who was arrested for making shooting threats towards UF. And this is a music video of an Ocala rapper named Christopher McCallum. And they never go by their Christian name, if you will. It's Jun McCallum. And I think, you know, being arrested and being on the wrong side of the law is all part of your street creds, which you must have if you are a rapper. I don't think you can be a rapper and have a clean bill of health legally. So he has been, somebody listened to his lyrics, and in those lyrics he was saying some heavy-duty things that mentioned the possibility of violence. This is according to Channel 20, who's picked up on this. At 8 Seconds, the downtown Gainesville nightclub, which is, I don't go downtown anymore now I'm a mature individual. But once upon a time, my guest laughed at that one, but she's off camera. She doesn't count right now. But once upon a time, I did spend some time on the bricks, as we say, downtown. And that was all part of, you know, living in Gainesville and all the nightlife and this, that, one, and another. But, of course, I live in Alachua, and I wouldn't go into town unless I had a driver. And so far, nobody's volunteered to be my driver. So anyway, this was going to take place, the violence was going to take place at 8 Seconds. It wouldn't have been the first time, by the way, there had been violence in a Gainesville nightclub, which hosting a concert by rap artist Kenyatta Bullard. He's got a name, a Youngie Ace. Don't ask me where they come from, these names. But in the song, McCullum makes mention of an ongoing feud between a group from Ocala Shores and a group in Gainesville. And he also mentions Youngie Ace's concert at 8 Seconds as a location for retaliation. And then he makes threats to one of the rival parties that he'd catch you at a Gator game and shoot the whole campus up. So that triggered some things. But it's triggered a bigger question, is whether or not that's protected by the First Amendment. And whether or not that's hate speech, and is hate speech protected by the First Amendment? And what is the definition of hate speech? So this thing has got legs and will probably be bigger than just the local story that we're reporting to you right now. And it's an interesting kind of phenomenon, once again, that we're going through. And to piggyback on that, so to speak, I've been looking a little more closely at what is the new home for the rapper concert on Easter, of all things. Those things seem incongruent. But, there you have a rapper concert coming on Easter Sunday. Of course, it will take place after the sun goes down. In the daytime, you'll have your children hunting Easter eggs and little ladies out there in their Christian outfits. But at night, it will turn into Smut Haven, and you'll have all the language that goes with rap concerts and the behavior with rap concerts. And the behavior that we've been watching has always been violent. And, we had this one here, which resulted in a felon at Hookah Lounge holding the thing, and another felon having, dispensing the liquor, which was a no-no. And by the way, a liquor on a Sunday in Waldo, I guess they can get away with it up there. We'll see how that goes. And where is the security coming from in Waldo? And supposedly Kim Worley, who is the city manager up there, is bitten on all this stuff and thinks these are just the finest young men that she's dealing with. Quit laughing, Jay. And Jay's back there laughing at this because he knows these people. He's their age. And so she thinks she was appeared yesterday on the news I've just been wonderful to deal with them. They've been just so upstanding and everything's just been hunky-dory and very fine. Well, let's wait and see what happens when the sun goes down. Because every time the sun goes down in these things, we have problems. And as I say, I have some experience with this, having been the city manager at Archer, and we had this kind of thing going on down there, which was just a nightmare because it brought in people from all over north central Florida. As far away as Panama City, Jacksonville, they all came because it's what we call in law enforcement a soft target. There's no law enforcement there to really impede anything that's going on, which was the issue at Hookah Lounge, where my golly, they were over there plugging people with 5 cops on duty, and they couldn't handle it. And the 5 cops happened to be, one of them was a police chief, and the others were captains, and they still couldn't stop the shooting. So now this thing is going to be relocated. This local rapper deal is going to be relocated in Waldo after it's been run out of, appropriately, I think, the fairgrounds here for not having the proper paperwork filed at the proper time. And, of course, it's always that old story, well, it must have gotten lost in the mail. We certainly intended and all this stuff to file it on time and and so it all boils down to whom you want to believe. There's some other things that are going on now that I just want to talk about just a little bit before we come on with our guest, because it is kind of interesting. Barack Obama's former White House counsel is going to be indicted on federal corruption charges, and this is, of all things, a result of the Gould's investigation. This was ferreted out by Mueller as he was trying to figure out if Trumpsters had broken the law, and what he came across was a federal corruption charge over a scandal with Greg Craig. The Wall Street Journal is reporting this, that Greg Craig expects to be charged on federal corruption charges over a scandal he had with Ukraine. If you'll remember, this is what got Manafort crossways in the road, that he had some sort of scandalous relationship with Ukraine. But now Barack Obama's former counsel, Greg Craig, is going to be indicted, and in the coming days on charges which are stemming from the work he performed for Ukraine in 2012. And to make it more interesting, he's refused to accept a plea deal, so it's going to go to the grand jury and all that hocus pocus. And the Justice Department is not offering any comment, as they shouldn't, because right away, Sleazy Cummings and Bug Eyes Schiff and Fat Jerry would all jump on it, along with Shaky Pelosi and Mad Maxine, and try to turn it into a negative, when actually it really is kind of interesting that in going on this search for corruption, they bump into their own people, which I think is probably going to be done in increasing frequency here in the near future, as Nunes has offered up to Barr 7 guys to be indicted on criminal charges for their behavior, all of whom would have been Democrats. And the wheels may come off this whole thing, and it really may come back to bite them, which I think would be true justice. And Barr says, I don't need a special counsel to do this. This is what the Department of Justice does. And he says, I want to find out who the crooked guys were, and I'm not indicting the whole FBI. I'm just saying that some of those guys at the top were politicized with their hatred for Trump, and that's what motivated them to come out and behave the way they did. And I want to run that down. Particularly, he wants to focus on the FISA document. And he used an interesting word this made the Democrats, Fat Jerry's bunch, so nervous when Barr said this in congressional testimony, that he was going to go search for the truth of this. Oh my golly, of course they tried to say, he's just an agent for Trump. We got to, Barr, we can't trust him. And Barr used an interesting word, being the language professor here, I pay attention to words. And if I haven't had too many beverages, I can hear them pretty clearly. And one of the things that he said is that I want to find out what it's predicated on. So that's the deal. He didn't say that there was outright corruption or anything like that. He wanted to know what the behavior that he had observed, which would make you think, as a reasonable person, that it was corrupt. If it were truly predicated on something illegal, that would make it corrupt. And if I can't find what it was predicated on, then I won't be able to conclude what I suspect is so. Well, buddy, they didn't hear that. I mean, they didn't hear that at all. There's also somebody, which I'm not going to feature right now because I want to get to my guest here in a minute or two, is a young black lady named Candace Owens, who is remarkable. And if we don't have time later on in the show to demonstrate her remarkable candor and power of personality and intellect as she's quizzed by Fat Jerry, we'll certainly run it tomorrow, because she is a fantastic person. And she puts them in their place because she's got truth on her side, and they do not. They are not living in reality, and she is. And they try to set her up, and they simply cannot get it done. She's just too bright, and she wasn't born yesterday, as they say, and she didn't fall off the, whatever they say, at the turnip wagon, or whatever that saying is, which I've never used, but I try to make up my own. You can figure that. I like original stuff. So anyway, that's a kind of a little bit of trip around the world right now that we wanted to introduce you with. And some of the, you'll notice that we got a couple of new sponsors coming up on the screen. Adam's Rib is now with us, and we got some others. There's Adam's Ribs, Adam's Rib Company. So, UF Movers. So we want to welcome them to the Ward Scott Files. And Ward Scott Files, and I can tell you that the public knows here that I support the arts, and I'm a big fan of the arts because I think they civilize our community and make us reveal our common humanity. But particularly my favorite is the Dance Alive organization because of the athleticism of it all. I suppose that's what really attracts me. It's not the beautiful performers. It's really Jay, quit laughing. Come on, Jay, quit laughing. Don't laugh at me, Jay. Jay has permission to laugh at me because I can't exist without Jay. I want to tell you that right now. Gators Dockside, another great organization that helps us out. So Dance Alive is really my pet here, and deservedly so. It's run by two ladies, Judy Skinner and Kim Tuttle. Kim Tuttle's with me now. Long time. Yeah, you can move. Come on over, Kim, and join me. There's Kim, and she is a professional. She used to have her own radio show years ago. Kim confessed.
High school
radio show. If you amazing. So she's a veteran, and she's a good friend, and she is the workhorse behind all that you see with the Dance Alive dancers and ballets, and she puts them through their routines each day. And it's a long, arduous, but fun-filled effort, one of passion and discipline, which is always an interesting combination. When you find those two things, you find usually a recipe for success. So Kim is here with me. She comes in once a month, or somebody from Dance Alive comes in once a month with Ward Scott Files, and we talk about the arts. We talk about specifically Dance Alive and how important it is to the community. But more importantly, what's going on with the dancers. And one of the things I want to impress upon those of you who are Citizens for Trump watchers, this Dance Alive National Ballet is a bunch of conservative people. And I'll tell you why. They have come from, lots of them, not all of them, but from communist countries. And they come from Moscow, they come from the Ukraine, they come from Cuba, and they absolutely are totally committed to the United States of America. Furthermore, not only are they committed to the United States of America, but they're committed to becoming citizens the right way. And by that I mean going through the 7 years process of learning the country, understanding what we're all about, and becoming at the end of that process a citizen. A couple of them have already done that. Those people were from Brazil, and one of them, Andy Valadon, is one of the best male dancers in the world. And these people are tremendous patrons of this country. And they told me something one day that was very shocking. One of the dancers from Cuba first arrived here, and I interviewed, said, I could become a citizen right now by going to Miami and paying $300, and I'd be a citizen, but I don't want to look over my shoulder. It's the wrong way to do it. I want to do it the right way. So that's the type of people we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who love the country and who want to be a part of the country the right way. And I just wanted you all to know that if you're out there and you're Trump fans, that these people are conservative and love the country. So, Kim, how you doing with all your talent, and what's you're doing with them, and what's the future coming up and your programming? That's what we'd like to share if you can.
I'd just like to comment on the dancers, and they are extraordinary people. I mean, they've given up their homes, their culture, to find freedom, find a different place, find opportunity. And they will accept sometimes lesser income to do that. They're wonderful people. They're wonderful dancers, and they represent everything that anybody values. I think that kind of extraordinary effort and quest for finer things. And with them, it's the arts, and the arts are not exactly the kind of thing that gives you a lot of money. It's not about money. Our mission is not about money. Our mission is about the art. So they're extraordinary. Next year we have an incredible series. Our season starts with kind of an interesting thing, Anna Karenina.
Really?
Do you know the story by Tolstoy?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the best novels, I'm sure, being an English teacher.
I didn't know that it was made into a ballet.
Well, it's going to be.
You're going to make it into one?
I'm doing it.
That is amazing. I want you to understand this is a creative genius. I've got it sitting here with you. You're translating Anna Karenina into a ballet. You.
Yeah. Well, it's been done a couple of times, but nothing, like Swan Lake or Nutcracker that has stood the test of time, shall we say. Yeah, Anna Karenina is going to be extraordinary. And then we always have our Nutcracker. And then in the spring, we're doing on February 14th, Valentine's Day, we're doing a beautiful repertoire show called Loveland. And we're using one piece that Judy Skinner is going to be choreographing, and it's Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Sonnets from Portuguese, How Do I Love Thee, Let Me Count the Ways. And then our guest resident choreographer, Brian Carey Chung, we have a new resident choreographer that has proven to do some beautiful work for us. We're excited to have him on next year as a resident choreographer. It's called Moonlight Sway. And it's set to Moonlight Sonata and Clair de Lune by Debussy. And then we're going to have fun. Then we have some fun things following that. But for those of you that love beauty, the first half of the program will be about that. The second half will be about a lot of fun. I'll look at the camera. Thanks, Jay. Okay, I just want to include.
Well, she's
my
looking at me,
friend.
Jay. How can you falter for that? Yeah. We reminded Kim to look at the camera because it's a little confusing here when I'm here.
And then the last thing that on the program is going to be a ballet by our new resident choreographer Brian Carey Chung called Athletes of God.
Really?
Yes, and it's set to the Bach Goldberg variations, which many of you might have heard of. It's this extraordinary like series of pieces that Bach composed. We're hoping to do it outside. We're looking at it doing
Outside?
Outside. He wants to do it at 5 o'clock with the natural light from God.
Where would you do that?
We're looking at different places. There's Depot Park. There's the whole Cade Museum area. It's a beautiful area. I actually walked it yesterday in the sun. It was gorgeous. And that's where the Tom Petty program happened too. And that celebration, remember?
I do remember.
Just recently, yeah. So we're looking at that. It may or may not come to fruition, but it's a phenomenal concept. I like the idea a lot.
So the outside is his concept?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so has anybody done that before? I'm sure the Greeks have done it. I mean,
Well, do you know, one of the most exciting things I ever saw was a man named Bejar. He had a company in Brussels, and very, world-renowned company. He did Bolero on a barge floating down the Grand Canal in Venice. Yeah, so, I mean, I will never forget that. It was one of the most exciting artistic events I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
So if you didn't have Depot, I'm sure there's some places.
We'll find a
You'll come
place.
up with something.
Yeah.
Florida Field, by golly. Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of opportunities out there and places out there, but that one seems to be, timely for one thing and beautiful for another thing.
So let's recap what you got coming up, and that will start. When will the season start again?
It will start, we start September 27th with Meet the Dancers, and that will be a fundraiser that we do at the Cade Museum for people that want to meet these dancers, these extraordinary people. And then we follow that up with October. We haven't the dates set yet because the Phillips Center hasn't set their programming, and until they set their programming, their series, we don't have dates. But it'll be in October, and then December is Nutcracker. We're touring all over the country for that as well. We start in November touring Nutcracker. And then February 14th, which will be at the Phillips Center, if that date holds, will be Loveland. And then in March, toward the end of March, will be the Athletes of God. And we also have our Champagne Gala. That's the last day of February. I think that's the 29th this year.
That echoes real loud.
Can't hit the table. Okay. So I'm getting excited. That's right.
But you can be enthusiastic.
Okay.
You can slap me on the back or
Okay.
upside the head or something like that.
Yeah, the Champagne Gala.
Because it's hollow. It won't make any noise.
Okay, Champagne Gala, which is February 29th, and that'll be at the Wrights Union Ballroom. Again, that's where we have the Dancing with the Stars, which you participated in with Carla Amancio, a recent citizen of the United States.
Yeah, right. Well, let's expand on a segment of that, which I think is interesting and people don't fully appreciate it. You're based here, but you travel the nation.
Yep.
So let's expand that and tell them what that's all about. And the traveling, by the way, it's all part of it, right? How do you travel? And
Well, it's a small city, and so there's not a whole lot of corporate support in a city this size, not compared to Houston or San Francisco or New York or Boston or Sarasota, Orlando, Miami. It's a smaller city. So in order to survive, we have to tour. And we have a small enough company that it's portable and we can do those things. We do a lot of Nutcrackers. We have toured internationally. We went to Cuba in October, and we've been to Russia, we've been to Brazil, we've been to Costa Rica. So it's an international touring company. Yep.
Well, when you go to across the country, where do those cities go?
Usually east of the Mississippi. We've been up to North Dakota, South Dakota, and all the way down to Key West. So anything east of the Mississippi.
Now, I've heard tell that you get a lot of applications to your dance group.
Yep.
Would you talk about that for a while, what all is involved? And I think the applications are accepted basically by your trained eye, are they not?
Absolutely, yeah. I make the final choice.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I think that's very interesting to people who want to know inside the huddle, inside baseball here, what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of companies have open auditions. They have them around the excuse me, open auditions around the country. We, because we're a small company, it's mostly word of mouth. And what we present
Among the dance professionals.
yeah, and also what we present on our website. For instance, Carla Amancio and Andre Valadon, who came from Brazil, saw our website, seemed to like the repertoire, found it was interesting, contacted me, sent me videos. At that time, those were the people I needed, and that's what I told them. I said, I need you, come here. And same thing with Julia Panumareva. She emailed me and sent me photos. We had a communication for about a year, actually.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful dancer.
Yeah, beautiful dancer. She's doing the Anna Karenina part.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and her husband Alexei Kuznetsov also came. They present videos. I have communication with them. It's all about how, not just how good they are, because dancers are good in general. Dancers are good in general. You get to a certain level, as you know. You know, there are very few people that separate out to be a Baryshnikov. Outside of that, everybody's at a very high level. And those are the people that I have. It's how artistic are they? What can they say on stage? What can they express? What do they have to give? How interesting are they to the public? And for that reason, I tend to like more mature dancers. I won't say older, because sometimes young people are mature too. But I want people that have something to say on stage. You don't need to have 15 dancers that are 18 years old that just want to get out and do some turns or jumps. You want to have people that can do the turns and jumps and speak while they're doing it, you know, emotionally speak.
Well, that's what I want to expand on there, too, because a lot of people don't understand that in dance there's nothing verbal. And much of this is in facial expressions and pauses in the movement of the body. And that becomes really tremendously important, and some of them are very good at it. Carla Amancio is excellent at it. Her face is so expressive that you can tell when she's sad, when she's happy, when she's thinking, all that sort of business. And she's a professional, one of the ones we just alluded to from Brazil, who has become a citizen and actually owns a property here in this community. So we want to support those type people, of course, and make it comfortable for them. They do like it here because of the intimacy of the community. And one of the reasons I do the show is so that you'll know about it. And if you're interested in supporting them, getting to know them, they like to come to things. If you have events, right?
Absolutely.
They will come to the events and appear.
They're outgoing people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're performers.
They're performers. So when we have this talent pool here, it's sort of a magnet among the other professionals, and they come here and apply through Kim here, and she takes a look at their video presentations. But that's in that video presentation, it's always interesting to me, having been a coach, you know, and also a teacher, is that you know this. You're a teacher. A coach is a teacher. There are certain things you recognize right away that distinguish that student from all the others. And you don't know yet necessarily if that will become fully developed, but you see the potential. And what are some of the things that you notice that separates, that you're looking for, that makes you that decision?
Well, this may be offensive to some people, but a lean body shows that you really care about your work.
I think I need to leave on that one.
Well, so do I. But you know, I look at people that look a little soft, and you don't see the muscles through the legs, and you know they haven't worked the muscles that well. So when you have a small company, it's a very athletic company. You have to be in really good shape. So lean body is helpful, and it tells me how they've worked, what they think of themselves when they're on stage. It says a lot. Doesn't mean skinny. It means lean, so you can see the muscle workings, you know. And then I think another thing is just general placement and carriage. People can do an audition video and do a tape, and you'll see the body line, and it may look beautiful, but there's an energy that comes out of certain people, and it's that kind of charisma. Or like Michael Jackson had this huge energy, you know, great dancer, you know, wonderful singer. But what really was captivating about him was his energy. And I think that you can see that on videos. You don't always see the beautiful body type, or you don't always see whether they're good partners or that kind of thing, but you do see their energy, and you do see their devotion to their work. And when I see that, I say, okay, that person can go somewhere. And you also see sometimes a little bit more the layers of their interpretation. Like you said, Carla, you can see when she's sad or she's happy, but she's much more than that.
Right.
You know, and the more the mature artist can convey a lot more than just the kind of simple emotions, and that's what you as an audience member really want to see. You want to see something that pulls you in and makes you, oh, I should have thought that way, or maybe I will think that way, or, you know, you'll find things that hit you in some way and make you feel something. That's what we want to do as performers.
Well, you know, I don't know if you know who Nick Bollettieri is. Nick Bollettieri is your counterpart in the tennis world.
Okay.
Nick Bollettieri.
That's another world.
You know, yeah, right. But my point is, he never was a tennis player. He was a Marine drill sergeant, all right? A wiry, literally leathery guy who has got all kinds of energy and astuteness. And he started a tennis camp years ago. It's broadened out to become IMG, and it has all sorts of people there now. But what would happen very quickly, it spread among the tennis players, that if you wanted to take your young one to the next level, you had to take that person to Nick Bollettieri to see if Nick Bollettieri would accept your child as a student at the Bollettieri Academy. And some of the people, just so you'll know who we're talking about there, were Agassi and Sharapova, and I mean, I'm just mentioning just
Big ones.
Big ones, no, big ones. And they asked him one time, and he every year at the U.S. Open, they feature him in a forum outside the stadium, and he asks a Q&A session there about what do you do and how do you do it and why have you been successful with it. And there are many, many places, of course, that train tennis players, but why do you seem to stand out? And he said, well, I'll give you an indication of what I do, and I can't really fully explain it, he said, but Maria Sharapova's father, who was a physician in Siberia, brought his daughter when she was very young, 7, 8, something like that, to Nick Bollettieri, okay, because she had obvious talent, but he didn't know, the father, if Nick Bollettieri would accept her in the academy, which Nick Bollettieri did do. And so they asked Bollettieri, well, what is it that you saw in Maria Sharapova that young that you knew she had the capability of later becoming the #1 tennis player in the world? And he said, I liked the way she walked. And this was as a kid. He said when she walked out on that court, you know, there was something about her carriage, something about her presence, something about her focus and intensity that you couldn't divert her from. You could drive her through the exercises, and she would accept it willingly and go ask for more. And you know, now with Agassi, it was a little bit different. He had the talent, but he didn't have the focus. So Nick really played the role. I know you do this too, of not just the coach, but also the surrogate parent, right?
Oh yeah.
And taking care of the off-stage issues, which I don't need to get into unless you have a good example you can use.
Nothing special. Nope.
But with Agassi, it was a real struggle, you know, and but he finally got the lad under control. He also has a school there, so he took them, you know, through the educational part of it all as well. But all of that was due to, and one of the things that Bollettieri had Agassi do was begin to lift weights and really get in shape. Now what has happened with the tennis world is you can't get out on the tennis professional circuit if you don't have the body you're talking about. You have got to be really a top-notch athlete. The days of a McEnroe or Jimmy Connor coming out there and not working out and getting where they got, that's over. You can't do that now. These guys are too big, too strong. They could play any sport they wanted to play. Some of them 6'5", 6'6", you know, serving 130, 140 miles an hour. So, and I was also a chair umpire and an NCAA chair umpire, so I had to, you know, manage these people in their athletic endeavors. So I see this is what draws me to Dance Alive. I see some of what. I see this in these people. I see that a lot of this discipline is morning till evening. I mean, that, you know, talk about what a typical day is like for a dancer in your studio.
Well, you have to get up, and then of course there are two couples that have children, so they have to attend to their children, and then they come and they have class at 9 o'clock or 9:30, and they work till 3 o'clock, and that's daily, so that's 6 hours. Because of our situation,
Now stop right there. 6 hours.
Yeah.
And what does that involve?
Well, it's not constant because when you rehearse things, there are some people in some things and some people in other things. So sometimes you'll start rehearsing and then you'll, sit while somebody else rehearses. So it's up and down and up and down and up and down. But the period of time is from 9 to 3 that we are available. And then we occasionally have some evening rehearsals when we have things like Nutcracker where we include students. And then, of course, Sundays during the fall before Nutcracker, we do our first act rehearsals on Sunday afternoons. So there's a lot of, and then touring. I mean, sometimes they're crazy. These people will go down to Fort Lauderdale, will travel down to Fort Lauderdale, do a show in Fort Lauderdale, then they want to drive back that night.
Oh, it got enormous energy.
Enormous energy.
Enormous. And just for you, so you'll know about the male dancers. These guys are daredevils. That's what I see them as. They got motorcycles. Most of them, a lot of them have motorcycles. I don't think they ever ride them under 100 miles an hour.
Well, Roberto is a little bit risky.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to talk about it on the air. How he likes. But these guys, nothing frightens them. I mean, they're really rugged guys, and they jump out of airplanes, and they ride motorcycles, and
That's a nice group.
They do flips. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys can do it all, and they entertain themselves outside, off the floor, really doing a lot of different events or manly events. I can tell you that right now. There's nobody shy about what in that group about what they're doing.
Nope, and they work out all the time.
They work out all the time. Felipe amazes me.
Unreal body.
I see him in the gym at the Gainesville Fitness Center lifting, and he does the Olympic lifts. He's not just in their bodybuilding. He's already got the body. So what he's doing is what the Olympic lifters do, which are events that move weight through space quickly and involve a lot of balance. And this is what these guys can do. And in fact, Andy Valadon, as I think, correct me if I'm wrong, won an award for lifting his partners.
Yeah, it was a Japanese competition. And it was a worldwide competition held in Japan. And he won first place in what is called lifting, but what we would translate to call partnering, which is where you dance with the girl. It's not just lifting, but incorporates.
Well,
that.
yeah, moving them through space while holding them is
Yeah.
a big, and they just effortlessly. It looks as if they just effortlessly pick them off the ground and move them through the air.
It's timing, it's strength, core strength. I mean, you've got to have a strong center in middle.
So they pump the iron, and they do that as well. But the other thing, and this is where I'm really derelict, when I did Dancing with the Stars, I danced with Carla Moncio, and she used to tell me, Ward, you need to stretch more.
Yeah, you like the stretching.
Yeah, and I said, stretch? What is that? And then she kind of modified it and said, just 10 minutes a day, Ward. Mm-hmm. Well, she's right.
Yeah.
But how many of us in the average walk of life, I don't know anybody routinely. I know there's some people who do the yoga and all that, but generally speaking, flexibility is not one of the strong points of the American society.
Well, you sit all day long now. Everybody sits all day long. You're all crunched up. It's really a good thing to stretch. Your body is better. The blood flows. You're healthier.
So we're talking with Kim Tuttle, and let's talk a little bit about you and your sister and how this got started and what the challenges are for the future.
Okay, so Judy Skinner and I are sisters. Our mother started a civic ballet company, and we took it to the next level.
What year was that?
Oh my gosh, it started in 1953. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And 63 was our official date, but it started before that, actually, and it's, the gestation period, I guess you might say. And we've taken it to the next level, and now we're both hitting retirement age. And we're looking at the sustainability and the continuity of the company. And I do have this new resident choreographer that's 40 years old who does beautiful work and wants to be part of the company.
That's great.
Yeah, he's really great. I could go on about him, and that might be, maybe he'll be in town sometime and can come in and speak
Love
with you.
to feature him on a Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was a student of mine. He went to the University of Florida.
Really?
Yeah. He also taught at Columbia University. He taught poetry. As
Really?
an adjunct professor. Yeah.
Well, I saw him during your last performance.
Yeah.
Was that his creation,
Yeah.
Alachua?
Nope, that one, it was the prior one, the Tango Mucho Madness.
That's right, Tango. But let me tell you something. You need to perform the one again that you performed for the city.
We want to.
This
We
what
want
a
to.
fantastic. Let me go an aside and talk about this for a minute. There's nothing else like this, and so we put in Kim and Judy and the others adapted a story, created a story, and performed it through dance about the history of the county of Alachua, right?
City of Gainesville.
City of
really.
Gainesville,
Yeah.
which is in the county. But yeah, talk about, that is a really a well-kept secret. Now, I hope you perform it again. People were so involved and interested in that. I mean, that is a fantastic production.
Yeah, we were hoping that the city would participate in that, and perhaps they will this year. Russell Etling has said he'd love to see it again because he thought it was wonderful. It's the land of Lachua. It starts out with the Indians and the Spaniards. I just kind of had iconic figures for that. I didn't do a big battle scene, but I thought it was telling. And then we talked about the springs that are so beautiful, and beautiful dance of the hawks, just telling about the environment and how beautiful this city is. Then we went to Payne's Prairie. We had like the 1800s, so the women in long white dresses. Some projections behind the whole time were beautifully done. I'll go into that a little bit later. And then we went to contemporary. What happens now. We did David Bowie, Let's Dance. We did Queen, We Can Rock You.
Fantastic show.
Yeah, I thought so too. I
Fantastic
thought it was really
show.
special. It was nonstop. There was no intermission.
Yeah.
And we had people like Lola Haskins.
And you had red dresses.
Yeah, we had red sleek dresses.
That's worth the whole price of admission.
I was a little nervous about those. But
No, let me override. I have a veto power here. You keep those red dresses, okay?
Yeah, the girls loved them,
You
and
better believe it.
yeah, up close it's a little revealing, but on stage it was great. So I was really thrilled.
I didn't
with
get
it.
to get up close, so I can't tell you whether it's true or false. But
Yeah.
obviously you need somebody up close to check that out.
Yeah, well, they were like kind of.
Can I apply for that position?
You can come in anytime you want to, as you do anyway. So it's good.
You can see the vitality and the energy in Kim, and that's what has drawn me to the group. And I like to be around positive, energetic people. And many of these people that she's talking about, they come in a room, you notice them. They're not that they take the room over. If they're just there, even socially, just there, you'll say, "Wow, that's a different kind of person there." And it's their presence, there's their charisma, that's their confidence, a bunch of things that you know right away when you're around somebody who is very secure in what they're doing. And so this way, I'd like to really broadcast this across. Now, here's one of your dreams, and I wish I could help make this happen. And unfortunately, Tom Petty has passed, or maybe we could have talked to Tom personally about it. But talk about and this would be very interesting because Kim and I know the musical history of this area, and it's quite impressive, as you all may know. We've got many artists here who started out as kids, some of whom practiced in your parents' garage, right?
Our basement, Bernie Ledden. Yep.
Talk about that for a minute. Bernie Ledden went on to become, Tom Petty World, right?
Yeah, they all.
And he practiced in your parents' basement.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We grew up in the '60s, so.
Yeah, we all grew up in the '60s. Well, I was a little older, but I was here for the '60s. The '60s was an amazing, amazing time.
In Gainesville, it was. The
Oh, my golly.
Music scene was incredible.
What an incredible time to be around here.
And the art scene.
And the art scene. I mean, it was flying high and all
That's
sorts
when the
of...
Hippodrome started, the orchestra started,
Spring
Dance
Arts
Live
Festival started.
Yeah, it was very... I think that the city really is starting to realize that this is an arts city. For being such a small city, comparatively speaking, of course, with such an enormous university, there's so much local art. So much. You go to different cities this size, and there just isn't this level, and there just isn't this quality or quantity.
Well, her dream is to make a dance presentation.
It's your dream.
Huh?
It's your dream.
That's my dream. Okay, well, you put it in my head. Out of our local music. And if any of you out there can help make that happen, Don Felder and these guys are still around.
Yeah.
Stephen Stills.
This is Donnie Felder.
Donnie Felder to her. Donnie Felder. Of course, I taught Tom Petty in high school. But if these people can, and they were just all kids that we were around and growing up with, and they were all. I got to be honest with you. I never thought any of them would amount to anything.
Never know.
And I've told the story before, and I asked them, when you guys going to go back into school and apply yourself? Oh no, we're going to go to California and make it big. And I would always tell them, well, yeah, you and 5,000 other people, and sure enough, they did. They went out and became the Eagles, or they became Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And I even remember Dwayne and Greg Allman around here playing with them. And we've got some local people here now who still remember those days. It's a group with Trentham Whitley in it, who is a keyboard player, who plays here with, I think it's the Detours, and he harkens back to those days when they were all here. So we've got a lot of people here still in the community. So I wish we could make that happen somehow, some way. It's my dream, I guess. You pass that off to me. Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
You know, what would it take? Let's talk about what it would take, music-wise. You'd have to get the permission from the artist, right?
Oh yeah, you have to get the music rights.
And then you got to get an agents and all that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a tricky proposition.
What would you need? A legal eagle to do that,
Yep.
or a liar to do that?
Yep. No.
I mean, I'm a lawyer. I apologize. The devil made me say it. You need. I apologize. I lost my place. Yeah. We got a great sponsor.
Couldn't live without lawyers.
We got a great sponsor.
Couldn't die
for an
without
attorney.
him either.
Yeah, we got a great sponsor for who's our attorney. His advertisement will bounce up there in a minute. He's a good guy. Supports the show. Listens to us all the time.
Great.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe he'd do it for you. I don't know. But first of all, you'd have to get the permission from the artists, agents, I guess, to use the music, right?
Yeah.
And then what would happen?
Well, it's even more complicated if you have several musicians involved, because a lot of them just prefer having their own, music for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's politics. It's politics.
I know nothing about that.
It's politics. It's a lot of
Have you tried it at all and hit a dead end, or what's?
I did. Yeah, I tried to get somebody for this program, The Land of La Chua, and that was a dead end. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of difficult, even if you know these people.
Well, something like Jesus Christ Superstar and all that—that's original music. That was original. Well, I guess you're back to the drawing board. You have to come up with the original music. Well, they're talented people. I mean,
They're great,
who are looking.
yeah.
I mean, around here right now, who are looking for the big break. I mean, I would think it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could, kind of accomplish a couple of things in the same breath.
Absolutely. I mean, we are a classical ballet company, so we are not a rock and roll type of company, but we can.
You
do
could
that.
be.
We can do that as we did in the Land of La Chua, as one little section. We did that, and all the dancers were on point. It's a ballet company that can do almost anything. The dancers are great.
Oh yeah, and let's talk for a moment. We got about 10 minutes left, and I think
Future.
we'll probably spend the majority of it with you. May wrap up with a couple things,
Okay.
but this is always energetic and fun-filled and full of information. Let's talk about how you did with the Dancing with the Stars.
Oh yeah, gala.
Let's
I think
get a
it's-
summary on that so the people.
It was huge. We were sold out at the Rights Union, and we took in about $110,000, which for a fundraiser in Gainesville is a really huge amount.
I'll bet that is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been successful. It's more successful every year. I have to attribute a lot of that to Lee May, who's our new executive director, and Kim Bosshart and Autumn Doughton, who were the co-chairs. Amazing. They all worked so well. Linda Rocha, who is our marketing director. Incredible group of people that did an incredible job putting this whole thing together. So fortunately, I got to work with the dancers. I didn't have to do any of the other kind of work. So it was a great thing. I'd like to mention too that we are looking at, we need a new building. We need a new space.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, Dance Alive is right now working out of Pofall Studios, which my sister and I own. It's a local dance studio. And we share the space. We give the space from 9 to 3 in the morning, and then the local school runs from 3 to 9 in the afternoon. But we're out of space, and we are really working with the city, but we're also looking at the city has some buildings that might work for us, but most of them are in the east side of Gainesville, which is where we're located as well. We're located right off of Main Street, and we are looking at trying to get an annex, a Dance Live annex in the west side of Gainesville too, because so much of the population, so many people have grown this way. So we're serving the east side, but now we also need to serve the west side.
Well, I think, let's be frank about it, your support comes from the west side. And
well, a lot of our students come from the west
Yeah.
side, but a lot come from the east side or, the Duck Pond area, that whatever. So, I mean, really, it's just gotten wider. The whole city's gotten wider. So we are planning on folding, when we retire, folding Pofall Studios into Dance Live, so it will become one entity. possibly a subsidiary. We have our board. We have wonderful people working on that, plotting that right now to see how we can and follow through with it.
So in summation, what we need help from in the public is we need a location to move Pofall Studios. Preferably in a location that is serves the whole comprehensive nature of the community,
Yeah.
but it's affordable and is dedicated to supporting the arts, and that's the challenge in itself because if somebody has a piece of property, they want to maximize a return on it, and so they want to probably rent the thing out. But on the other hand, there's lots of opportunities.
And we
here.
also want to build in the east side as well, because eventually Ginny and I, my sister, will sell our property so that we have some income for our future health issues, probably.
Right.
So that needs to be, that enters into the equation too. That's why the city is working with us. But like I said, the city is looking more toward the east. We also need the west. We really want to serve the whole city. We want to serve. We have people coming up from Ocala, driving down from Lake City to take classes because we have a really good ballet program, a really good academy, that if you're very serious about dance, that you would find it beneficial.
Well, you also have been well received in Ocala and Marion County
yeah.
because you work at the Briley Center, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep, that's been a well-kept secret. It's performed.
Well,
in
not
Raleigh.
there. In Ocala,
they
no.
really come out, don't they?
Oh yeah. Well, we sold out our Nutcracker there, so.
We moved it up to Alachua at my urging. I'm going to be very frank. I'm a little disappointed at the reception up there. I'm going to jump on the city leaders to give more support.
Takes a while.
And they need to get off the dime and help out a little bit more because, and I can tell you right now that I wish like crazy High Springs had a facility because that really is an artistic community there.
It is, yeah.
And I think they'd receive you with open arms, but I can't find a location up there big enough to perform.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's some of the challenges, and some of the other things. One of the things I'd like to maybe just spend a minute or two on, and I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I have just realized that one of your really good dancers that I enjoy watching, and also I had the opportunity to dance with a little bit at Dancing with the Stars during the recreational part of the dance, was a homegrown girl who came up through your system. Rachel. I'm just really charmed by Rachel. Tell me a little bit about her.
Rachel started dancing when she was 6. And,
really?
Yeah, at Pofall Studios. And she's one of the few that has actually become a professional dancer with Dance Alive that came through the school. We always encourage that. I have another dancer I just signed next year, Rose DiOrio, who trained both in Ocala and Gainesville. She's one of the ones that traveled from Ocala every day, and her sister travels every day to Gainesville to take classes. And she's been at Herod Conservatory, and she wants to come and dance, and she's a beautiful dancer. So we've got 2 pretty much homegrown. That's, we really encourage that. If the dancers are a good fit for the company, I really try to do that.
Well, let me ask you this. You got 2 you mentioned. How many have come through so statistical, they represent what percentage of people who've been able to do your arduous discipline and do well?
Well, they either dance with us or they dance elsewhere. A lot of people don't want to stay in Gainesville. They grew up in Gainesville, they want to leave. For instance, Lori Stallings, who went to the National Ballet of Canada and then Hubbard Street, and then she was the resident choreographer for Atlanta Ballet, and she's really a world-renowned choreographer now. She grew up in the studio. And her brother, Luke Stallings, who danced on Broadway. There are a lot of people that come through, but they want to leave. They want to explore. They want to go somewhere else. Like students, they want to go to college elsewhere.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, it's the same thing. You want to veer off and go somewhere else and explore life.
Well, we've been talking with Kim Tuttle this hour, and actually about 45 minutes. You can see how fast the conversation goes. And it's really not just a local conversation. It's a conversation that has national implications. First of all, as I want to reemphasize, is the Dance Alive organization is the people are very conservative. I mean, they love the country. They want to be citizens. They want to do it the right way. And they're not people who are lack training or discipline or respect for that process. So they are willing to go through a citizenship training program. That's not arduous for them at all because they do it every day in their own profession as dancers. And they've come from countries that are, in some cases, quite repressive. I mean, Yulia Pivaskaya, I think, came from Moscow, right?
She's Russian.
She's Russian.
And Ukrainian. We had 2 Ukrainians.
2 Ukrainians.
And Brazil. We had people from Venezuela, I can tell you, and Argentina and Chile. The stories go on and on.
Well, we
Cuba.
have one gentleman who comes in from China, right?
Yeah, Chu.
Chu, still dancing at 65, 66 years old. And
71.
71?
Yeah.
And the flexibility for a 71-year-old person in dance is outstanding and off the charts. I've seen him. He's a very nice gentleman.
He was principal dancer with Hong Kong Ballet for 7 years. He was a star, and he left China when he was there when Mao was there. And when he saw that Hong Kong was going to revert to communism is when he decided he was going to leave.
He would be a fascinating person to have on the show.
He would be. He doesn't speak so
well. He doesn't really speak. He doesn't speak of the English really well.
But he has some stories you would not believe.
But this is the type of thing that's drawn me, not just to the artistic side of this, but from the personal side of this, where these people have come from, what they've been through. And I got to tell you, what I've learned from them is this dancing is kind of their ticket to ride. If they're professional dancers, they can pretty much go anywhere they want to go.
It's true.
And for the young ones especially, that's kind of how they see the world. I remember interviewing Buse, who came from Turkey, who was only, I think at the time, 19. And her concern was, this is a young lady who's gone on, I think, to what, Indiana? Indiana, the ballet.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis Ballet. She was only 19 when I interviewed her a couple of years ago. One of the things she talked about is she had been trained by a very, very good coach in
Germany.
In Germany, as a young one, 13, 14 years old. She was so good at that time that, as I remember the story, the coach told her, listen, you're good enough that you can go out now on the international circuit, but my concern for you is that you're so young, because you will be going out alone, right? And she didn't faze her in the least. As I talked to her, she thought that. She told the coach, I'm ready to do that, coach, and don't be concerned about me. And she actually planned, as I sat and talked with her, on enjoying this ability to move about the world and turn it into a positive rather than a negative. So
she has wanderlust.
She had the wanderlust, yeah. But how did a young lady like her from Turkey find a teacher in Germany?
I think there was a guest teacher in Turkey that she liked a lot, and he was from Germany, and she went to school there. It was a high school for performing arts, and that's what she did. She graduated there, and then she went out, and she does competitions. She's one of these people that just goes everywhere she can, all the time.
Well, it's travel. She's young, she's energetic, she's healthy, and I always remember that story. Another story that I remember, I want to close out with, since many of you are conservative and listen to the show, although we have liberals too, and that's no problem with that. We're all together on the arts, and certainly we are together on some of the political issues, although a lot of people don't believe it. But we had a young lady who's come here from Cuba. And when I first learned of the young lady, she was being accompanied by our marketing director, Linda Rocha, who's been on the show. And I was talking with Linda, and I think you know this story, but I don't know if the public knows it, that I was talking to Linda on some other matters, and she says, we have a new member of the company who's come from Cuba, and I was just bringing her in, and she was in the car, and we stopped for a traffic light. And this young dancer from Cuba exclaimed, just blurted out, oh my golly, your traffic lights work here. And that was just stunning to me, that we take for granted infrastructure here is the same everywhere, but it's not.
I'd like to say something to that, because we traveled in Cuba and we spent a week there. We were invited to the International Ballet Festival in Havana, and we were not with a tour group, which is what most people have to be with. Because we were invited there, we were allowed to stay at kind of a bed and breakfast. And so there were no confines in terms of where we could go and what we could do. There is no toilet paper. In the National Theater, this huge, beautiful National Theater, there's no toilet lids or paper. There's no water. You have to buy bottled water, but then you have to walk 3 or 4 blocks to find it. And the streets are pitted and falling apart. The homes are pitted and falling apart. The cars are all from the 40s and 50s, which everybody from America thinks is really great, but the reason they are is because they can't afford any new cars. It's a very, very sad country in terms of the people and what they can afford. Of course, people in power can afford a lot, but the people who are really great people and wonderful, warm people, they have nothing. They have nothing.
Well, what a note to conclude on. I mean, that's the type of thing that you do get when you travel the world and you see it candidly up close the way the ballet did in Cuba. And we have a lot of Cuban people in this community who support the arts, and we have Cuban-owned sponsors here on the show. And I found those people to be just as solid as can be.
One Cuban dancer, Aaron Gomez, is working for MIAPA.
Well, and he's a great dancer.
Yes, he is.
He's a great dancer.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming by, Kim, and we'll be around in about a month again to talk about what's going on with the arts.
Love it.
And we like supporting them. Big Daddy Productions supports them. Do a lot of video work for Dance Alive National Ballet. Can't thank Big Daddy enough for being involved in the community. Does an awful lot of charitable work here in the community. When really doesn't ask for any publication in return. So I like to notice that when you see excluded up there, you're seeing Big Daddy Productions. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. We're going to have a representative, Chuck Clemens, call in at 8:45 tomorrow to give us a report on what's going on in Tallahassee. So thanks for listening to the Ward Scott Files. Ward Hall Command Center out.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Do you want to put your business in front of 10,000 new customers? Visit wardscottfiles.tv today for more information on our advertising opportunities.